Get the shot or get fired. City of Denver employees have 2 weeks to get vaccinated. So what happens if there are mass firings?
When somebody's hurting, it's nice to be able to have the ability to reach and help out.
People in Colorado know how to help others, even if they're strangers. A small town shows its big heart. And a mystery in Cope, Colorado has people hung up. Where did their iconic phone booth go? And why did they even have one? Stay on the line, because we are next. Denver City and County employees have 2 weeks left. 2 weeks to show proof of being fully vaccinated or have an exemption. Denver has been coming up with a backup plan on how to keep operating because it anticipates some employees could be fired for not getting their shots. Anusha Roy takes a look at how this could play out.
The goal is for people to keep their jobs and get their vaccines.
If people are promising to come into compliance, we want to give them an opportunity to do that.
But city leaders are well aware that's not going to be the case for everyone. If an employee is not in compliance by the deadline or granted a medical or religious exemption, they could be fired.
The first time that they are non-compliant, they would get a 10-day suspension. And if thereafter they remain non-compliant, we would move forward with termination.
It's why all city agencies were told to think about a contingency plan. Exactly how many people could leave isn't clear yet, but in the same way at the beginning of the pandemic, agencies were discussing what to do if a bunch of people fell sick at the same time. They're planning about what happens if employees are terminated. This could include reallocating staff, adjusting hours, and moving people around to departments that are shorthanded.
Certainly with our contingency planning, that will be a big piece, is to ensure that we do not impact city services, or certainly not essential city services.
So right now, some of the department heads said they know that people are saying no to the vaccine outright, but the city really wants to give them until the end of the month in case they change their minds or do want to come in compliance. Jeremy, they just want to make sure that everyone has a chance to do that.
Yeah, there's some conflict here. The numbers need some perspective, too.
Yeah, if you look within the Department of Public Safety, so Denver 911 has just over 72% who have uploaded their vaccine proof. The fire department, just over 80%. That then drops to 63% for police and 58.2% for the sheriff's department. It's really important to remember that leftover percentage. That can include people who are still working on uploading their paperwork, exemptions. There's more than 200 from across the city that are still being reviewed. And then, of course, the folks who are saying no to the vaccine. So the city is saying those numbers are going to keep fluctuating over the next couple of weeks.
And so how does this work out for officers who actually do get an exemption?
Yeah, so city rules is to mask and social distance and get regular COVID testing. But when it comes to an officer or a deputy, that interaction with other people, that's a really big part of the job. So it could mean changing a person's job responsibility, accommodating the situation, that contingency plan that's going to include continued focus on recruitment. But overall, Jeremy, the Department of Public Safety said that they are not anticipating massive walkouts.
Let's see if that happens. Thank you, Anusha. Colorado is playing catch up. Communities shut down testing sites this past summer because nobody was using them. They didn't expect a surge in cases, and now there is a demand. And once again, there is a race to open up new testing sites. Here's Mark Salinger.
For months, the COVID testing site in Greeley was nearly empty. Now, there aren't enough resources to handle the demand.
We've gotten very, very busy, and we anticipate the need for more testing.
Around 1,000 people a week now come to get tested here at the University of Northern Colorado campus. Compare that to July, when the number was just 200. It's the only testing site in town.
So we have the one testing site for the city of Greeley, and as far as I know, all of Weld County.
Dan Friesen is the emergency manager for the city of Greeley. Up until the beginning of the summer, the city had 3 COVID testing sites. When those began to sit empty, the city closed 2 of them down. Now they need them back.
We did scale back. We kind of combined a couple of our testing sites.
Greeley is working with the state to open more testing sites as the demand increases. It's not the only community facing the same challenges.
As the Delta wave started hitting in late July, our testing capacity here at our health department really got overwhelmed.
In Larimer County, the health department was doing around 50 tests a week in July. Now that number is up nearly 30 times to around 1,400 tests per week after the state came in and opened 2 new testing sites earlier this month.
The demand was huge for us.
At the beginning of summer, Larimer County did what a lot of other communities were doing. They focused their resources on vaccinations over testing. Now, many agencies and even companies are requiring their employees to get regular tests, forcing cities to handle more tests. Corey Wilford is with the health department.
We just couldn't be happier that this need is now being met.
As the demand for testing grows, the hope is more testing sites will keep the line moving. President Biden announced this month that all businesses with more than 100 people will have to require unvaccinated employees to be tested regularly. So how will this impact local testing sites? Jeremy, the answer is that they don't really know yet. They know that they're going to get an increase in testing, more than they can handle right now, a lot of communities, but they don't know exactly how many people will start getting tested regularly because of those mandates.
Yeah, and even without the mandates here, did some of these communities even expect this?
Yeah, look at Larimer County, for example. They've just told us that their ICU capacity has been over 100% since the beginning of this month. So when you have that much virus spreading in a community, there's bound to be more people who get sick, more people with symptoms, and more people who want to get tested to see if they are sick.
Quite the time. Thank you, Mark. A lot of you have a lot to say about parking rates going up in the city of Denver. At metered parking, expect $1 an hour to jump to $2 an hour starting in January of 2022. So this got me curious about other cities. Denver is actually on the low end with its current $1 an hour rate. I clicked around and found cities all over the country. They charge more, from Los Angeles, Seattle, Minneapolis, even Boulder, and Colorado Springs. Metered parking there is more expensive. Prices in some of these cities fluctuate depending on time of day, demand, and region. This will be the first time in 20 years for a rate hike in parking in Denver. The city says it will bring in an extra $9 million per year. That money, I'm told, will go to improving transportation, including bike lanes. It was just Haxton people doing Haxton things. That's the sentiment from Kyle McConnell, a father of a student in the small town in northeast Colorado. The high school out there was supposed to play Wiley in a football game last Friday, but on Thursday, they woke up to the news that 4 teens from Wiley had been killed in a car crash and that the game was canceled. Kyle, Steve Statz, and other parents in the Haxton community started discussing what they could do about this with his help. At first, they talked about a barbecue with burgers. Then that turned into a silent auction and a fundraiser for the families of the victims on Friday night. Haxton, turns out, raised more than $12,000 in a single day. How about that? Haxton suffered its own community loss in a fire several years ago, so they know the importance of the kindness of strangers when tragedy happens.
Any one of us could be in the same situation at any time, so it's just tough for me as a parent to I don't know how these parents are going to handle this.
Tomorrow's not guaranteed, and today's a gift. And so every time that we're able to live in the moment and do something that we can be grateful for today, that is something that I think that our community really revels in, that we kind of band behind and understand wholeheartedly how quickly things can happen and how much your life can be affected in just a few moments.
The money raised will be split among the families of the 4 teens who were killed. The family of a 5th teen who was badly injured will also get some of that help. Let's look back at life exactly 100 years ago in our Random Colorado History segment. Back on September 16, 1921, a record was set by airplane here in Colorado. The Estes Park Trail newspaper reports 2 men flew in an airplane from Estes Park to Denver in a record time of 35 minutes. This is quite impressive since this was only about 18 years after the first flight. Now, according to this article, the average drive time between Estes Park and Denver back then took 5 hours. This was in 1921 in a car like this one. Today I checked with the drive time with the current traffic, and there's about an hour-and-a-half drive time between Estes Park and Colorado. So look how far and fast we have come in the last 100 years.
The number of people with COVID in the hospital is going back down. But at what point will we know when things are better here in Colorado? It's a good old-fashioned whodunit.
Oh, a suspect. Dum, dum, dum.
No, really, the thing that was stolen is super old-fashioned. We talked to people in the eastern Colorado town of Cope. Thieves took the town landmark. Next.
It's a question our COVID guy Chris Vanderveen gets asked a lot. When will we know we're doing okay here in Colorado when it comes to what the virus is doing? So he and our technographics team decided to try and answer that. The key involves something known as decoupling.
Let's talk waves. No, not those waves. COVID waves. In 2020, every wave of cases resulted in a similar looking wave of hospitalizations and deaths. As cases increased, a week or so later, so would hospitalizations. And as hospitalizations increased, a few weeks later, so unfortunately, would deaths. Eventually, the cases would peak, the wave would crest, and hospitals would start to calm. Which brings us to a critical goal of vaccinations. With Delta circulating, we know we're going to see more waves. The key is, will the vaccine ease the hospitalizations and deaths that routinely followed last year? Take the United Kingdom, for example. A few months ago, cases once again started to rise quickly. Another wave was upon them. But this time, in a country with more than 60% of its residents vaccinated, the case wave was not followed by a similar increase in hospitalizations. Look, while cases jumped like this, hospitalizations didn't. The two metrics, in essence, decoupled from one another. That's a good sign the vaccine is working by preventing the most serious of cases. Problem is, that's not what we're seeing in many states in the U.S. Look at Idaho and Tennessee, for example, two states far apart. Both have seen recent record case spikes, which have led to sharp and record-breaking increases in hospitalizations as well. No decoupling in either. There are now more people in Tennessee and Idaho hospitals than at any previous point in the pandemic. Why? It's not entirely clear, although pockets of both states remain highly unvaccinated and thus unprotected from the virus. Why pay attention to this? Because as long as cases and hospitalizations continue to rise in unison, it's going to be tough to put these waves, and thus the pandemic itself, behind us.
A warm summer September day, but increasing clouds and wind tonight signal a change for Friday. Our high today, 94. We had close to 100 in eastern Colorado, but temperatures tomorrow will be in the 70s with the arrival of a front that's already triggering a little bit of thunderstorm activity out around Fort Morgan and Julesburg. Storms that have the potential to produce some hail and also some damaging wind. We don't have much rain coming into Denver. There may be some cloud cover tomorrow afternoon. Really, the big story will be the temperature trend. A comfortable evening tonight and then a much cooler day tomorrow. Mid-70s Friday, close to 90 heading into next weekend.
All right, I have something interesting to recommend here. This is something we've covered before on Next. Remember those KKK ledgers History Colorado published earlier this year? They're two large books with thousands of entries from the 1920s. Well, History Colorado actually took those ledgers and spent hours mapping out all of the entries. And what do you get here? A splattering of dots all over the Denver area showing precisely where KKK members once lived, right down to your street, even your house, if it's old enough. I found 7 members who once lived on my block. Now, this map really gives a visual demonstration on how pervasive and influential the KK was in Denver's past just 100 years ago. You can find a link to this map on the Next Facebook page.
A small community, word travels real fast.
One of the last remaining phone booths around, a piece of pride for the town of Cope, Colorado, and someone took it. It's not a phony story. Next.
Small Small towns all have their quirks, their unique things and objects that give them identity. In the tiny town of Cope, Colorado, someone stole a piece of that town's pride, something that was obsolete but was still admired by everyone. And they hope someone will phone it back home.
We are in Cope, Colorado.
We counted up last night. We have about 56 people that reside in the town of Cope. Yeah, we have a post office. We have 2 churches.
And no phone booth. This is Vicki Cecil. I mean, the Cecils have been here for 4 generations?
Probably 5 now.
5 generations, well, yeah, with your grandkids.
This is Lanny Payne. He is the president of our Cope Recreation Club.
We're talking about our phone booth that the Plains Telephone had donated to us that disappeared this summer.
There's a picture of the phone booth at Larry's Conoco. As the filling station closed, the phone booth obviously wasn't used, and like Lanny was saying, it was donated.
We never hooked it up because the cost is, well, and like you say, everybody's got their cell phones today.
Right.
So.
This is my grandson, Kellen Lyman. When he was 1 year old, he and his mom and dad came down to the park to take a few family photos, and they went over to the phone booth.
The traffic along 36, it's amazing that would stop. You know, all of a sudden come around the block and look at it. It was just kind of a novelty. I mean, it's just sad that somebody would, you know, take our little phone booth.
So a phone booth, it seems so minor, and yet it's a big deal because it gives us an opportunity to get together and have some common ground.
I mean, we thought that was a significant piece of our town history. It's been in here for 50 years.
We would appreciate it if we would ever get it back. That would be fun for us.
A small community, word travels real fast.
And Jim told me some little detail yesterday, and I go, oh, a suspect. Dum, dum, dum.
Who takes a phone booth? Maybe Superman needed a new place to change. Vicki and Lanny tell us a report was filed with the Washington County Sheriff. We will keep you updated if the phone booth ever finds its way back home to Cope, Colorado. It's a sign that you'd think would be illegal pretty much anywhere but Nevada. That and your feedback next. It's a sign that you need to get your mind out of the gutter. This space is reserved for hookers. Oh, this is going to get me fired. You know, fishermen, anglers of any sort. Jeanette spotted this outside of a bait and tackle shop in Glenwood Springs. She thought it was funny, so she sent it to us. You can do the same thing. If you see a sign around the state that makes you laugh, please snap a picture of it. Email it to next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext on Twitter. All right, let's go to some viewer feedback here. Somebody texted in this. Jeremy may be a great reporter, but he has no personality on Next. He is offensive to look at. Sorry, sir. I'll be back Friday, tomorrow again. See you again.